on the YouTube Power Hour. This week, I am interviewing blogger and YouTube influencer Lydia Elise Millen. I have received so many requests to have this powerhouse online influencer on the podcast, and she did not disappoint. If you're new here, welcome. Make sure you subscribe because I have brand new influencer YouTube interviews every single Wednesday. Also, if you have a YouTube channel, you're looking to grow your YouTube channel, I have lots of free resources in the description, including a free masterclass and a free 32-page ebook to help you on your YouTube journey. Enjoy the interview. Mwah. Well, hello, Lydia. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi.
I'm so excited to have you. I have had so many people request to have you on. So I'm so glad to be here, finally speaking to you and just getting your insights in this industry. But before we dive into all that, why don't you give a brief Cliff Notes version of your journey as an influencer so far?
Okay, so I'm quite well. I've been doing this for quite a long time, so this is really like condensed, but I think I've just marked my 8th year doing this. So I started when I was at university, and basically I wasn't allowed to do the degree that I wanted to do when I was at university, and I kind of had to make my own fulfillment because I've always loved being around fashion and beauty and things like that. So I really wasn't getting that from my degree. And I just thought, well, I'd always had like websites and stuff growing up. And I one day thought, oh, I'll make a blog or whatever. And I used to just take pictures of my clothes on my bedroom floor. And then one day I was like, oh my gosh, I should so be wearing the clothes. I mean, it's genius. And it was just a hobby and I loved it and it was great. And I devoted like my weekends to doing it. And I did my blog for about 4 or 5 years. Just having a blog and focusing on Instagram. I mean, when I started my blog, there was no Instagram. I should point that out. Instagram did not exist. But so I did that for that sort of about 4 or 5 years. And it was kind of the natural progression from my blog to then go into YouTube. But I was quite scared. I think it's a big jump being sort of behind the computer, hidden by what you are happy to share, and not put everything like your weird quirks on the internet. You're just pictures and written words. And so that was scary when I started YouTube, but it was the best thing that I ever did. I can definitely say that. It completely changed how I operated online. It also changed the connection that I had with my audience, which was probably the biggest shock. So yeah, I remember I had like 300,000 Instagram followers, and that's a huge amount of people. And I could walk down Oxford Street and nobody would know who I was. Absolutely nobody. But 100,000 on YouTube. And I remember once being stopped outside Bond Street Station by one person, and then another person, and then another person, and then another person. And I was just by myself, and it was so overwhelming to realize that 100,000 on YouTube was so different to 300,000 on Instagram. And it was lovely. It was great. So now it's like 8 years on, and I've loved every moment of it. And YouTube is definitely the sort of changing point in my career. 100%.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. When was when you started your YouTube channel? Like 8 years you've been like as a blog or whatever. When did you start your YouTube?
I started my YouTube. It was about 3 or 4 years ago now.
Oh, okay.
I would say.
Okay.
Yeah, but I played around with it to begin with because I didn't really know what I was doing, and I didn't know. I'd always sort of thought of YouTube as a very young platform, and I didn't think that women like me were necessarily wanting content on that channel. But I was wrong. And as soon as I decided to start putting out content that I would want to watch, that was when everything changed for my channel, because I think that there was a quite large audience of women and men waiting for, like, I don't know, a bit more mature content, although sometimes I'm so immature. But
Yeah.
But still, just something that speaks to like young professionals and people that are just embarking on their career, because that's kind of what I was doing, and I was buying my first home and all of those things. So yeah, it was interesting.
So, I mean, you had a relatively successful career, like as a blogger, on Instagram, you have 300,000 followers. So why did you take that jump and that risk to finally get onto YouTube?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't know what it was that changed it for me, because I was always like, no, I'll never do YouTube. No. And then I think I just saw other people doing it, and I thought, why don't we give it a go? And I remember when I put my first video up, I cried because everyone was so nice.
Really?
And yeah, it was lovely. It was lovely because I think, you're putting yourself out there in front of a lot of people,
Yeah.
and it is petrifying. And for everyone to have been so nice, it was lovely.
That's amazing. And I'm so glad you did go onto YouTube, because I feel like that's how I know you, from YouTube. I feel like that's how a lot of people know you, is from YouTube. And it's like, yes, blogging is always great, but I feel like YouTube and video is just like the future. So it just makes sense.
Yeah, and it massively changes the relationship that you have, because people are so more able to relate to you when you are an animated person and you have your own personality and sense of humor. And that's something that I wasn't very good at getting that across in writing. And so that's why I think, especially for me, it was such a drastic difference from being on Instagram, especially before Instagram stories, and having a blog, was just the instant connection that was formed. And that was really, really different for me, really different.
Yeah. So when in YouTube, it sounds like that's kind of really where you had that relationship with your audience was established, is through your
Yeah.
YouTube channel. And so at what point into your YouTube journey, like, did you realize, like, oh my gosh, this is like really different? Like, I'm really feeling like I have this relationship with my audience.
Well, apart from obviously when I would meet people, because I just never met people that were that engaged. I mean, I'm sure that I saw people that maybe read my blog, but it wasn't the same kind of connection that they had with me. So that was definitely the biggest thing, going places and people saying, "Oh, I love your videos." You're like, "Oh my gosh, like you watch my videos. That's
Yeah.
insane." But also when I would talk about products that I loved, I think that definitely came a bit further down the line. But when I would talk about products that I just thought were incredible, to then hear from the brands what the sort of knock-on effect from that would be, was really, really interesting. And there's always one product that kind of sticks in my mind, and it's the Terry CC serum, because I literally still use it to this day.
Okay.
I think I discovered it just as I started YouTube, and even now it's the one product that people are like, especially my audience, they'll say, I use this product as well, and I found it through you, and I discovered the brand through you. And it's amazing that people trust you so much more when they are able to hear you speak about something and hear your natural kind of love for something.
Versus in writing or just a photo of it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I think that the biggest thing was when people were saying about how video content was the sort of the next evolution in this industry, was because it's built off of authenticity, and you really feel a person's authenticity when they speak about something that they love. Like, you watch a person just come alive when they talk about something that they love and use and can't wait to tell their friends about. You can feel that and see that, and you believe it. So yeah.
I think that's huge too with YouTube, because YouTube really truly is all about authenticity. And then people come to YouTube because they're craving, they don't want just like a glossy magazine telling them, some advertising or whatever. They really do want true people that they admire, that they look up to, someone like yourself, and sharing, what it is that makes them so fabulous, from a very authentic place. And I think people really, really crave that. So it is interesting that you, being such a successful blogger, Instagrammer, really saw that shift once you started using video. and that
Yeah,
engagement.
yeah. It was just another kind of level because there was no Instagram stories and
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's true.
you
There was
know
no
people
Instagram stories. Yeah.
yeah.
You
So
forget
it
that.
was just it was my first move into video. I don't even think I was using Snapchat. I think Snapchat again came after.
Mm-hmm.
But it was that instant kind of this is just who I am. And I did initially start sort of putting out more polished videos, and every now and again because I enjoy making content and I enjoy pushing the boundaries of like what we can create as
Mm-hmm.
such small teams.
Mm-hmm.
But I always find that the glossy content rarely does well as my more relaxed, just
Mm-hmm.
me and a camera chatting. In terms of like views and engagement, it always tends to come from that more natural, relaxed content where it's just me and my little vlogging camera.
Yeah, I know. I love your vlog. Your vlogs are a lot of fun. So when you're vlogging, I saw there was like a vlog recently where I think you went like with Laura Mercier to Paris or something. That was so beautiful. Are you doing all that filming, or do you have? I know your husband was with you. Does he help you out, or like how much of a team effort is it when you're doing these vlogs?
So
Or do you have a
in my
videographer or somebody there?
well, I hire a videographer and a
Okay.
photographer,
Mm-hmm.
and I have him work in house with me 4 days a week, I
Oh,
believe.
that's so nice.
He also helps with editing and like
Oh, that's
it's
so nice.
it means that I get to focus on the
Creating
side of
content.
things yeah, exactly, just
Mm-hmm.
filming and capturing and documenting, and that's what obviously is the reason why I got started in the first place. So
Mm-hmm.
it really does take that off of me. But when I travel with Ali, he just does my content and helps me with my content because he enjoys it. And
Oh.
I mean, he's another level. He is so quick and just so fast, and just he really does have this talent for creating really exceptional high quality content.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it just depends. If I go on a trip and I don't have a plus one, then perhaps it's just me and my vlogging camera. And then
Mm-hmm.
if I go on a trip like I did recently, where I went away with Lalique and I had my whole team there with me, which is the best case scenario because it means that everything else going on doesn't grind to a halt because I'm in a
Mm-hmm.
different country.
Mm-hmm.
I'm able to put out the standard of content combined with the normal, authentic content that I would usually do, and everything kind of works well. And then there's the times when I'll just get 1+1, and that will mean that I'll have someone there to help me. But it may not be like there may be people tearing their hair out at home because I'm not getting back to like WhatsApp messages and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. That's amazing that you have a team, because I'm a huge believer in outsourcing and in taking things off your plate. Because as a creative, it's like unless you're the kind of person you're like, oh, I love editing and that's part of my process and that's part of why I do it. But for a lot of people like yourself, they're like they just like being in front of the camera and creating content and not being bogged down by those things. So I love the fact that you have a team. When did you, for your YouTube channel, did you start off with a team, or was that a progression later on?
No. Oh
Mm.
my gosh, no. But I think, in fact, I think that I was working by myself a lot longer than I should have been. So
Mm.
I literally only took on a like photographer and videographer and like editor this
Mm-hmm.
year.
Oh,
So I
really?
had, yeah, I had one over Vlogmas, like the same guy over
Mm-hmm.
Vlogmas, and I was like, I can't go into the next year
Without you.
doing all of this myself again.
Mm-hmm.
So I kept him on and I've had him with me for the last year. I know the things that I'm like, I know my strengths, and I know my weaknesses,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not afraid to try and learn new things, but in the same breath, for efficiency, it's more important to me that I get my content out. And I was spending hours sat behind the computer when those hours could have been in front of the camera
Mm-hmm.
creating.
Yeah.
And that was a business decision that I made, and I chose to take my what I'm earning and put that back into my business and try and make it work better and ensure that I can work better.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I've kind of I kind of applied to my whole life, not just online. If my time could be better spent somewhere else, and more efficiently, then why wouldn't I have help with that? So it's
I think that's great because it's like, your, like you said, your strengths and your weaknesses, and like your zone of genius is creating content, being in front of the camera, doing the things that you do, as an influencer. And then because when you start putting your energy towards things that you're not passionate about, or not that you're not passionate about editing, but when things that aren't necessarily maybe your strength, right? It's like you end up sucking your energy dry, and in that part of you, which could be there to do what you're really good at, which is, being in front of the camera, all that stuff, it's depleted. And so then you end up hurting yourself and your audience in the long run because you're not really there for them.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. It's like, as much as, I'm sure if I spent the time to learn the craft of editing in the way that I see, my videographer and Ali learning, amazing. But sometimes Ali takes a whole day just to learn how to do one thing in a video. And I know that as much as that's an amazing sort of skill to have, my audience, like I said, from my own kind of understanding and watching, and I pay very close attention to all of the back end information that I have when it comes to my audience. I know that they're not too much into the snappy transitions and the masking things out that I hear. At the moment, Ali is learning how to green screen, and I'm like, no,
yeah,
from me, but for his audience, they love it. And if I incorporate a little bit of snazzy editing, like when I was away with Laura Mercier, or when I was recently away with L'Oreal, just a little bit of footage, knowing which platform that sits best on always works really well. So, but I know that I'm the person that's in front of the camera, and I've kind of acknowledged that that's my strength.
Yeah.
And I enjoy that the most, and it's what I feel most fulfilled doing. So I'm not afraid to have people join the team, and it actually is nice.
Yeah, you're kind of, because you're not alone. Yeah, you have like a group of people, and that's. So, what does your team consist of? What does it consist of?
So the team that come and work with me every day at my house is my best friend Carrie, who is also my manager. And then I have Cal, who kind of covers all of the behind the camera stuff. And then we all just kind of work and sit around here. And that's what happens from my house. Because it's, you don't want to have too many people at your house. But then we've outsourced other areas that are covered kind of out of my home. But that's one of the biggest learning curves that I've had, is how difficult it is to have people in your home and in your life, because this is my life. I put my life out on the internet, and you can feel quite exposed when you have people in your home. And, if Ali and I are bickering or something like that, which we do because that's just normal. But you can feel quite exposed in that sense, because it's your life, and you don't necessarily put everything out on the internet, but then there are people that are seeing that every day. So it's interesting, but I definitely enjoy it because it creates a space that's quite creative. We all like brainstorm, and even if we're watching a video back, we'll all sit around and be like, oh, you need to put this on there and make a funny joke, like take the piss out of me because I'm usually something stupid in my vlog, and we'll all come up with like funny ideas in the way that we should edit that particular piece. But it's really enjoyable, and it's quite a creative space, so I really like it.
That's so cool. And so how did your life change when you did bring on an editor, you did bring on the videographer? Like, were you able to create more content once you were able to get that off their plate? Or what kind of shift and change did you see in your channel or whatever it is once you made that change?
Well, I think that what it really did was it freed me up for other channels to a certain extent. So what happened when I started YouTube was the instant response that you get when you upload a YouTube video. It doesn't really correlate to what happens when you put a blog post up. A blog post is quite a slow grower. And so inevitably my blog was neglected quite a lot, actually, which was so sad for me, because obviously that's where it all started. I think I also lost my confidence with it because I'm not your standard blogger. I'm not, I'm not a gifted writer. I just write what I feel like writing about, and that's the way that it was when I started. And I didn't ever want it to be this polished, perfect place. I wanted it to be, the things that I love, but still me, and the fact that I'm not a gifted writer is part of who I am. So I lost my confidence with it. But what he has done, he's come on board and he's been able to take over those hours that I was spending editing. And I'm now able to put a lot more content out in terms of my blog or in terms of Instagram. And I'm freed up in that sense. Whereas sometimes I would find myself editing until the early hours of the morning, at which point there was no way I was going to be able to write a blog post at that time. I do want to have some time for myself, and especially when my husband does the same job as me, we have to be quite set in that. And when it comes to 6 p.m, we kind of have to say, okay, no more work. I mean, obviously that isn't always the case. And we, like, 2 nights ago, he was learning to green screen in bed, and then he woke up. Well, no, I woke up to him having a dream about him green screening, and he like talks in his sleep. So,
oh my gosh,
maybe not right there on the work-life balance just yet.
Yeah,
but working on it, and we're bringing people on that hopefully can help with that.
Yeah.
But that's the main thing, is that I'm now able to give a little bit more attention to my blog again, which I love and I find so fulfilling. And I'm doing a lot more on there. So I don't think I would ever introduce like more videos a week.
Okay.
I think I've got a good amount too. I don't want people to get bored of me, but I think it's kind of, I'm okay with 2 a week. I think I might lose my mind if I did more than that.
Yeah. So a little bit ago, you mentioned how, you really take a look at like the numbers or metrics, behind the scene to kind of understand your audience. What exactly do you mean by that? And what is it really that you're looking at and what you're looking for?
Well, for me, it's important to have that balance of what they like with what I like as well. I have to enjoy creating the content that I want to create. But I can't just put what I like out. There has to be an element of their enjoyment as well, because I enjoy creating content for them. I have to track what happens in the YouTube kind of creator studio and just see the content that they respond to, the content that they watch for the longest. I mean, it was so funny. It's so funny to look at how my videos have changed, because when I first started YouTube, someone said to me, don't ever make your videos longer than 12 minutes. And I was like, oh, okay, wow, interesting stuff. So all of my videos, I tried to be as short as possible. I don't know if you've ever watched any of my videos nowadays, but they are not short.
They're long. I noticed that. They're like 20 minutes, 22 minutes, like at 18 at the shortest. I mean, some are like really long, like 30 minutes. Yeah.
If it's under 20 minutes, I will get angry messages about the fact that my video wasn't long enough.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, which I love. I love the fact that they enjoy watching for that long. And I recently went and had a meeting with YouTube, which was just such an amazing meeting with them, because it really gave me confidence in what I was doing. And they showed me the stats and how long people watch my videos for, and how my videos perform against people in the same industry. I find all of this stuff fascinating.
Yeah, I do too.
About it. But they compared my channel to similar channels and how my videos perform. And it was just amazing to see that, because often you sit at your desk and you think about this. Sometimes I watch some of my videos and I'm like, this is so boring, Lydia. And then I put it out and people are like, this is the best video that I've ever watched of yours. And I'm like, I don't know what that is, but I'm glad that you enjoyed it. Yeah. But I think that's the kind of thing that I try and stay on top of and watch and just ensure that we're in harmony as such with what they like and what I like. And as long as I'm doing that, then I think I'm enjoying what I'm doing. So it's good.
So when you're kind of evaluating a video or just kind of taking a look at some of those metrics, what is it that you look at in regards to like, oh, okay, this video did well, like that my audience really watches? Are there certain parameters that you have in your head? Like I want a video to get such and such or whatever, what is it that you're looking at?
I generally, I mean, the first port of call, I always look at the views on the video, because that tells you whether it was a subject and a title that resonated with your audience. And so that's the first indicator that I look for, is like, so nobody clicked on this video. This is obviously a subject that they're not interested in. I also find that my videos that are shorter don't tend to perform in the same way as my videos that are longer, which just doesn't make sense to me at all. So I tend to start off there, and then obviously comments as well, because you want people to engage and feel not triggered in the negative sense, but triggered in the sense that they want to participate in conversation and chat and things like that in the comments. And so that's always good to know that I've put enough content that really draws them in and makes them feel part of the discussion, because obviously they're sat behind a computer and it was me just sat behind a camera, and I'm not actually talking to anyone, and I don't want them to feel that way. I want them to feel like I'm talking to them, and I'm not just just brazenly talking to them about whatever, because I'm just trying to talk about something. It's about creating that connection with your audience as well. So I really hope that I do that, because I would hate for someone to watch my videos and just be like, just talking at me all the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And was there anything that YouTube kind of shared with you, like in regards to like things to look for or look at that like really surprised you? You're like, oh, wow, yeah, I should really pay attention to that now.
Well, they definitely highlighted things that I'm not doing as well. And that was interesting, because I cater to my audience so much that they were like, you miss the searchable content. So a lot of my views is literally my audience.
Your subscribers.
It's literally them. And I'm maybe not hitting like just the trends on YouTube. And obviously you have to strike a balance between what is a trend that suits you and what is a trend that just does not suit you.
Yeah. So true.
And so I mean, for me, my audience always come first, and if I'm catering to them and only them, but I'm still growing, then I feel like I've got a good sort of balance there. But it was just an interesting perspective to have, and it definitely had me and my team kind of sitting down and thinking about potential videos that I could do and try and see how it goes, because I'm always wanting to try new things. I don't want to be stuck doing the same things, but at the same time it's finding out what's right for my channel and my audience.
Yeah. So I take it you don't pay attention then to like SEO or keywords or things like that when you're coming up with video topics?
No, although that's something I've never ever looked at, but they did obviously talk to me about the trending pages and things like that, and so that's definitely something I will now look into. But it wasn't. It's never been something. No, nothing I've ever really focused on. And I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but
it's funny. I mean, I think it's a good thing considering how successful you are. I mean, I think that's, it's kind of like you've talked about. It's so important to be understanding who your audience is and creating content for them. And it sounds like that's really been your focus in planning your topics, planning your content and all that.
Yeah, it has been.
Yeah. Yeah. And so one of the things that I noticed with you is that you definitely work with a lot of brands and you seem to have a really good relationship with different brands. And so I'd love to talk with you a little bit more about kind of your behind the scenes on working with brands and how that whole thing goes. So I think the first question is, how do you decide what brands to work with ultimately? Are they, when they reach out to you, I'm assuming most of the time they're reaching out to you and you're not reaching out to them, right?
Yeah, I'm not very good at the whole reaching out to brands.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're at the size where I'm assuming most of them are reaching out to you. So then how do you make that decision? Like a brand's reaching out to you, whether or not to partner with them and all that.
I think that, I mean, it's always a difficult one because there will be instances where a brand will reach out to me and I will have never even heard of them, but something will interest me about the brand, but it won't be like, oh, I'll just agree to work with them off the back of them just sending an email saying they want to work with me. For me, all of, like I said, I think we spoke about it before, but like I take my collaborations and my partnerships with brands really seriously, and it's not something that I ever just flippantly do. And so I think that there's one that I'm thinking of at the moment that hasn't actually come out yet, but the brand approached me, and initially I was like, I'm not so sure. And then I looked into the background of the brand and I saw them doing such amazing things that I was like, I have to try these products. And then they send products out, and it's like so many different phases to it. So just off the bat, do I feel passionate about the brand? And is there a reason that I'm interested in this brand? And then from there, they'll then send me products to try, and I'll spend, I mean, I think I've been trying these products now for over two or 3 months, and only now has anything been agreed, and that is so important. And I actually wrote a blog post recently over on my blog that was about being difficult, because I often feel like I'm quite difficult to work with, but it's because I'm very protective over what I put out and the collaborations that I have and the partnerships that I have. And I'm very protective over my audience as well, because if I expose them to a brand, that has to be something that I stand by, and I think is not, it's great for me, and it's also great for them, and they'll be interested in it. And I can't be pressured into things. And a lot of the time, in the past, I've definitely found that I've partnered with a brand that I loved and I love the product, but then they want me to work on other products. And I'm like, well, hold on a minute. This is the product that I love. And just because I love this doesn't mean I'm going to love this as well. And it doesn't mean I'm going to tell my audience about it. And sometimes that can be something that a brand maybe doesn't quite get. But it's moving in different ways. And obviously brands are getting so much more savvy now to how it works. But it's something that everything has to have like a conversation. I want to have a conversation with a brand, and I want to be able to throw ideas around and make it really work, so that they're first of all going to be being exposed to my audience in the way that I think is the right way to be exposed to them. But I'm also not going to be pressured into doing anything that doesn't sit right with me and isn't anything that I would want to tell my audience about. I always feel like I go off on such a tangent on questions, by the way. I'm so sorry.
No, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a subject that I constantly, I feel like I talk about it behind the scenes, but I thought that speaking to you today was like the perfect opportunity to just kind of speak about the side of the industry that maybe doesn't get spoken about so much, and I have a lot to say.
Yeah. I mean, so like what are some of the things that really, in regards to working with brands, like strike a chord with you that you just feel is like nobody's really talking about?
Well, I think that there's a lot, like, I feel like at the moment there's a lot of pressure for brands to be working with influencers or creators or YouTubers or bloggers or whatever, and brands are under a lot of pressure, and so they're just kind of like panicking and just working with anyone, and there's not necessarily a lot of knowledge about what the difference is between someone who has a whole load of followers and someone that actually has a relationship with their audience. And they may not even have as many followers as this person, but it's kind of a completely different entity. And I know that there are brands that have worked with people that have 1 million followers and then worked with someone who's got 50K, and actually the person with 50K has performed better than the person with 1 million followers in terms of engagement, in terms of ROI, and in terms of influence. And I guess that's what it all comes down to. And so that's the side of things that I think I'm hoping is coming more to light now. And I hope that people are feeling a little bit more comfortable to talk about it. But yeah, there's a huge difference between just someone who has a load of followers and someone who actually has influence. Even though I hate that word.
Yeah,
by the way.
I know. A lot, and it's so funny. So many people are like, I hate that word, but I just don't know what else to refer to it. And like, same here. I don't know what else to say because it truly is. It's ultimately it comes down to influence. But I think that's really interesting. I think you said something really interesting too, in that like you are seeing that brands are feeling this pressure to work with influencers.
Yeah,
And it's almost as if they're scrambling to just find any influencers. Is that what you're finding?
I think so. Yeah. And they
Mm-hmm.
like, because I'll often get emails from brands and like, it's not like the kind of email, because I've had emails from brands in the past where, I've never purchased anything from the brand, but they're like, we'd love to have you come in and get to know the brand because we think that you would really like it. And
Mm-hmm.
in fact, that's what happened with By Terry. And By Terry, I'm an ambassador for the brand. I have used their products like forever. And this is not me like trying to, shine a light up
Yeah,
their
yeah,
backside.
no.
But it's for me, that partnership was the whole sort of the whole thing. It was authentic, and
Mm-hmm.
they spent time letting me get to know the products. Literally, they took me to their head office, and they're more of a niche beauty brand, so they don't have like they're not like L'Oreal head offices or anything like that. But
Mm-hmm.
we went there, and they let me play with their products, and I was like, oh, I really like this, and I really like this, and then I went away and I got to know the brand. And from that, they saw the impact of me on their brand, and it just went from there. And now I'm like the face of one of their products, which is something that, I mean, I can't believe I get to say that, but I am.
That's amazing.
And it's how that's how it should work. But then you get people that are just kind of like, oh, we'd love to work with you on this brand. And it's like, but why do you want to work with me on that brand? Because
Mm-hmm.
I've actually never featured that brand. I've never spoken about that brand. So what makes you come to me? And that's the thing that I find really strange, is that there's so much worth and value in someone that already has a love for a brand. And it's like my partnership with L'Oreal is the same way. And I had such a love for them as a drugstore makeup brand that sits still like quite premium. I don't know how they do
Mm-hmm.
that, but they
Yeah.
do sit quite premium. And then when I joined the beauty squad and now I'm like a friend of the brand, it's because I had that natural love for them, and
Mm-hmm.
they nurtured that and they saw the value in that. And that's where the real partnerships and true partnerships come from. But like I said, I think that there are a lot of people that panic, a lot of people that outsource to a lot of agencies,
Mm-hmm.
and it's hard, I think, for agencies to maybe get a grasp on who loves what brand if they're just working with that particular brand at that time. And it's something that I think takes time, and it's not very slapdash. And I think that that's not what they're used to. Like old media is, we have a brand, we need a spokesperson or a face. Let's go with the it girl of the moment and sign, I don't know, Kendall Jenner.
Yeah. Pay
And
her a lot of
she,
money, tell her to talk about our products,
yeah,
and then yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and that's just it. That is not the size of, they say it's not one size fits all, and
Mm-hmm.
that definitely does not fit our industry, because our industry is built off of authenticity. And I'm not saying that there's no authenticity in like celebrity partnerships. They have their value, and they're still very much present today, but it's a different kind of partnership with
Well,
a
there's not
brand.
there's not authenticity. Like in the past with celebrities, I mean, it's like it's really came down to, huh? I'll say it. I mean, it's really comes down to just money a lot of times with celebrity endorsements. And it's like
Yeah,
really whoever pays, that celebrity a certain amount of money in the past that, here's my whatever. Or if the celebrity happens to have some kind of like stake in the brand, then they'll be promoting it. But like you said, with influencers, with people like yourself, people that have built an audience on authenticity, it's an interesting kind of balance and marriage between serving your audience, but yet at the same time, working with these brands.
Yeah.
And it's like, in a lot of way, it's almost like in a lot of way, it's like the influencers themselves need to be the one teaching these brands for them to really take notice.
Yeah, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's, like I said, I think it's a conversation, because I definitely learn things from the brands that I work with, and I've learned so much. But at the same time, there just has to be an understanding that just because you work with this influencer over here
Mm-hmm.
and it works super well that way, it doesn't mean that that same partnership will work really well. And I honestly, in my media kit, I have like so many quotes from brands that say she changed how we viewed influencer marketing, because it's her audience just responds to the way that she does things. And I've
Mm-hmm.
had so many times when I've had collaborations with brands and they've turned around and they said, yeah, you were right in what you said, and we appreciate you taking the time to teach us that it was maybe different. And obviously, like, they know their stuff, and I'm not saying that I taught them anything that isn't part of their expertise. It's just a different thing. They don't know my audience, and they don't know how I do things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's with some of the biggest brands in the world that I've had that conversation with. But it's great that I'm able to have those conversations
Mm-hmm.
now, and I also feel confident enough to have those conversations, because there was a time where you just would kind of let someone come to you with a collaboration and you'd be like, oh, okay, yes, sure, whatever you want. And now I'm like, no, that's not how I do things. I know you would like something that looks like it fell off the pages of Vogue.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want that, then go to Vogue.
Yeah.
Like, go to Vogue. That's your audience. But if you want something that's going to resonate with this particular type of person, or people like me,
Mm-hmm.
then you kind of have to listen and understand that it may not be as polished or as perfect. Because I find that a lot with the higher end brands,
Mm.
especially the higher end fashion brands. You have to say that, I know that you have this understanding of over here, but this is a different thing over here.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but it's conversations. And I think as long as brands are always open to speak to the person that they're working with, it might take a little bit more time. But that kind of investment of time can change the game when it comes to the collaboration that you're working on. So, yeah.
Yeah. And so, I do have a lot of brands that listen to this show, a lot of people that own brands, and because they're always kind of interested in learning about the influencers and kind of their perspective. So, what would be, say, your top like 3 pieces of advice, like very specific things that brands should do? Say somebody wanted to work with you, right? What would be the top 3 things that they should do to attract somebody like you, to be able to work well with an influencer?
I don't know whether it's like,
Well, maybe you know what,
like,
let me switch it. Maybe what are the 3 things they should definitely not do if they're going to be approaching you? Not you specifically, but I'm saying working with an
yeah, if
influencer.
they're
Yeah.
looking to do like a brand, in my
Yeah.
opinion,
Yeah.
they're looking to do a brand collaboration, because a lot of things that I hear from brands or like agencies, is that they're like, this brand only looks at the number of subscribers. And you can't just look at one metric and expect to get the campaign that you want. It's not about follower size. So if you're looking at the amount of followers, and that's how you're basing your campaign, and that's then I mean, you're going to have a great the little box that says potential reach will be great,
Mm-hmm.
but that's your potential reach. And what you really want, at the very least, is your actual reach.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem when people are just looking at numbers that they can see, and not asking for sort of back end data or anything like that, and to understand if someone has 1 million followers and only 1% of their audience are even engaging with anything that they're doing, then that you're better off going for a smaller creator and probably working with someone that has higher engagement rates. But then again, just because someone gets a lot of likes, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a recipe for
Mm-hmm.
exactly. And so I would definitely say that the best, so definitely don't look at just follower size alone. And I would say you need to be having conversations with the people that you're working with. So maybe if you've got a campaign that you're looking at and you want to work with 10 people, that's probably going to be, unless you've got the manpower behind you, that's going to take you a lot of time to understand who they are. So maybe cut that in half and work on these 5 now, and then later and nurture those relationships and understand how their audience works and what works best for them. And then later down the line, move over to the other 5 people that you're looking to work with. But if you've got the manpower, do the 10. But it's just not a slapdash thing. And so time to work on the content that's going to be going out and the partnership at hand is key as well. And then looking at the data after, who actually performed well, who actually was beneficial for the campaign and the business. You have the right to ask for the stats. That's obviously private on our accounts, but I pride myself in sending that over to brands. And it's a lot of brands also send me their stats as well that they receive from working with me, and that's great, because that was a time when they wouldn't do that. And now they do, and so that's really nice as well. But yeah, I think it all comes down to having a more well-rounded approach, and so those 3 things definitely.
So you said, don't take a look at the numbers that are just obvious, right? Not just subscriber count, not necessarily likes. So what is it then, on the back end that, say, the metrics that you do share with brands that you say, hey, look at this, or what are some things that brands should actually be looking for that maybe aren't so obvious?
I would say things that aren't so obvious. I mean, I think that's just all of the data that's hidden for us to put forward. So understanding, I mean, I have like a whole pack when a brand comes to me and says, oh, we want to see your media pack. And that's just all sent over, because these should be figures and numbers that are going to be beneficial for a brand. So you've got no problem sending those things over. Obviously, it'll be different if you maybe don't have that relationship with your audience and you don't want to send those over. But yeah, I would say that those are the things that maybe brands don't know they can ask for, or they don't know that they should be asking for.
Like, what would be the figures and numbers? Like, what is it exactly? If it's not subscriber count or...
Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah. I mean, it can be anything. There's so many numbers back there, but I think that more than anything, it's the response to what it is that they're doing online. So I obviously only ever speak from like a fashion and beauty and lifestyle perspective. And it's the swipe ups, it's the purchases. I mean, it's interesting when you get brands that talk about numbers that come to their sites and they're like, now it's our job to turn them into customers. That's quite refreshing.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I've logged onto websites and my favorite creator has featured something that I want to go and buy, and the website has just been like, no, I don't want to shop here. So I understand that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's more the because you have to think about it this way. If I was a gamer and my channel was built off the back of being a gamer, and then I all of a sudden one day rebranded and I was now a fashion, beauty and lifestyle YouTuber or Instagrammer or creator, that whole audience have no interest in that content. I mean, there might be some that have like dual interest, but the real interest comes of me as a gamer. And if a brand hasn't looked back into that, they're not going to know that all those numbers exist there for a completely different audience and a completely different genre. And so when they feature a lipstick or a handbag or a pair of shoes, then the response to that is not going to be the same as if they've just featured the latest game that's come out. I mean, I don't watch any gamers, so I don't know if they feature those things.
Yeah,
but I just but yeah. So that's another thing that I say about when brands take that number and they don't really know who those people are. And so understanding who that person has worked with previously, potential case studies of campaigns that they've done in the past. Even, what do they call them? I've taken testimonials from brands on how things work. These are all things that should be readily available within a kit or a media kit for brands to look at and understand whether they want to work with this person, or if this person is the type of person that they want to be partnering with.
Yeah, and it does. Ultimately, it comes down, for brands, it comes down to conversion, right? It comes down to, brand is going to work with an influencer who, I mean, really in just basic layman's terms, is that going to be able to sell product,
Yeah,
like
I guess so.
ultimately.
I mean, there are some people that just look at views and they just want to see that their product has been seen by that many people. But I think it always, like, you're right, it always trickles down to the fact that they want to make sales and talk about and see people then going on and buying their products. But they may not think that they're going to see that from
a smaller,
just working. Or they may not think that they see that in general, because it's different. Things are changing in terms of how people shop as well, because I'm now quite happy to buy beauty products online, and I would never do that before. I'd like see it online and then I'd go into store and I'd swatch it, but now I'm like, no, I need that now, so I'm going to buy it now. And I used to prefer shopping in store, and now I can't stand shopping in store. I love going online, and so it's definitely switching. People have a lot more confidence in shopping online. So it didn't used to be that people would see much conversions, and now it's changing because people have confidence in it. And so, there's just so many multi facets to look at.
There's a lot, but I mean, it really, it really does make sense that it's like, like, the brand has to do their homework. They can't just pick somebody. They say, oh, this person looks good or whatever. And then you come to find out, like you said, they changed their niche recently, or like maybe they have a lot of subscribers because they had like a couple viral videos that were not even related to their niche. And they have this whole bunch of subscribers that are not watching their videos. So like their views aren't that good. Their conversions aren't that good, but they look like there's this vanity subscriber number. So then they looks good, but ultimately then, and I think brands over time are learning, because a lot of brands I think are getting burnt out because they're paying a lot of money for these big influencers, but they're not seeing that conversion.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There have been times when I've worked with brands, and I remember it was one Christmas and I worked with a jewelry brand and they did a big campaign, and I met with them after Christmas and they said, that campaign would have been a flop if we would not have had you working on it, because nobody else converted. And so it was
compared to all the other influencers they worked with.
Yeah, they were like, we hinged everything on your content, and thankfully when your content went out, it like essentially saved the day. But I'm sure that there was business losses because of how many people that they'd worked with that maybe hadn't converted. And now they're very in tune with who converts and who doesn't, and they keep their pool of creators that they work with quite small. And I think that that's what it comes down to. I mean, obviously, if you have the power to nurture multiple relationships as a brand, then yes, you're going to be spending, it's going to be time well spent, but not a lot of brands, especially nowadays, because there are so many brands. I mean, I feel like there was a time when it was like literally Microsoft, Coca-Cola, Apple, and that was like it. And now there's just so many brands, and having that power behind there's a lot more niche brands, a lot smaller startups. But if you spend it in the right areas with the right amount of creators, then you can start off small and then branch out and get bigger and bigger.
So when you said earlier that you consider yourself to be very difficult when it comes to working with brands.
I'm difficult in general.
Yeah, but I mean, that's good. So, I mean, what exactly do you mean by that? Like when, it's like, oh, hey, warning, I am difficult. Like what do you mean by that exactly?
I mean, I obviously don't mean that I'm just difficult for the sake of being difficult.
No,
I just say
know.
no. Yeah, it's like, it's just it's more that it might take you longer to work with me than it would be to work with someone else. But I like to think that it would be better, because I'll ensure that the content is to my usual standard. It sits in line with my content, and I won't have allowed any pressures from working with a big brand to warp what it is I would naturally do. And I will say things and push back on things and stand my ground on things, but I'm always doing it with the fact that I want to provide the best kind of collaboration and do my best for the brand. It's not because I'm just purposely trying to be difficult.
Yeah.
And I often feel like, honestly, I often feel like there are some brands that I have worked with in the past that honestly just think that I'm being difficult. And it's like, I mean, I'm just trying to do a good job and work with you. And I think that was what prompted me to write the blog post that I wrote recently, is that I'm not just doing this to be difficult. I'm doing this because I want to do a good job and I want to continue to work with you. And I know that it's probably more time, but hopefully it's worth it.
Yeah. And I think it's like, I think brands should trust influencers because nobody knows their audience better than you. And, you know, I've talked to a lot of, you know, creators on this podcast and also behind the scenes who say, like, you know what, like this brand wants me to do this like video that's like a brand, you know, product sponsored video, but I know that is not what my audience will want to see. They're going to be turned off from that. So even though the brand wants me to like highlight this product, like give a full thorough review on it or whatever it is, that's not going to work. So I have to like tell them no. And if the brand says, well, no, that's how we want it, then you kind of have to, as a creator, make the decision, well, you know, I'm not going to sacrifice my channel for this. It's just not worth it.
Yeah. And honestly, I think that I wish I said this earlier, and all those questions that you were like, what are the mistakes that like brands make, or what should they be looking for? If I honestly, for the majority of collaborations that I've had come in, I think obviously now people are learning, but brands would, if they could have it their way, they would be like, we would like you to talk about our product for like half an hour in a video, and that be your video.
Yes.
And that just isn't how it works. And there's a lot of times that they're like, we don't want any other brands to be featured. We don't want this, we don't want that. And it's like, unfortunately, you don't get to dictate that. That actually is something like, I'll respect the like parameters of your brand, and I'll respect the product. So if I'm working on a highlight, I'm not gonna, which highlight are you wearing?
Oh, it's a jouet. Yeah. Yeah. I had the Christina, the owner of Jouet, on the podcast. So we did a giveaway. Yeah, she's really cool. Yeah.
I met her at the airport in France, I think. And she's so nice. But yeah, I need to try that.
Yeah, it's beautiful. When she sent it, I was like, ooh, now it's like it's like I've been using it a lot. So thank you.
I want a full breakdown of your makeup after this, because I mean, I'm in my relaxed environment.
Well, you still look amazing. So I mean, you and your relaxed is like me on my best day. So.
No, what was I saying? I've just got
about like the brands and how like they would love to have like a one product, like here's this concealer, it's amazing, it's the best thing ever, and how that doesn't always going to work.
They would happily have that, and I get it, because again, that's what the old school advertising and marketing systems would have you think. Like you wouldn't have a L'Oreal product but also feature a By Terry product in the same video. And it's like, who in this day and age, do you wear one face of all products of one brand?
Nobody does.
Like nobody does their makeup like that. Nobody does their skincare like that. It's not relatable, and it's not, I mean, I'm sure there's one person out there or a few that do, but on the most part, I barely use the same eye cream throughout the week. I like to use multiple eye creams. I like to use multiple lipsticks, different foundations, and especially when I'm doing makeup or skincare, I know that it feels wrong to feature alongside competitors, but actually that's how your audience, your customers are going to be using your products. I know that you want to think that they will only use your product, but they won't. Yeah. And I don't. And I'm not going to pretend to my audience that I do. And I know that they're not daft enough to believe that. And so I wouldn't agree to something like that. Yeah. And it's hard because you have conversations where brands will be like, I'm not gonna, we can't justify having you promote other brands, and I have to respect that. But it's more important to me that I am authentic, and I feel like when I watch someone only do a 15-minute ad for one product, I feel like I've always been cheated. I like to do my sponsorships different to that. And I when you see someone using just one brand, you see through it, and it takes all the authenticity away from their love of the actual product, because I'm sure they do, because they wouldn't be working on it, but they just haven't felt the confidence to push back and really educate the brand on how consumers actually do things and they actually want to watch, especially on a platform like YouTube or Instagram or blogs. It's just not the same as TV.
It's not. And it's the thing is, over time, brands are going to learn, and it's going to take people like yourself, other influencers of all sizes, to be pushing back and schooling them in a way. And also, brands are going to get burnt out. Like, they're going to learn their lessons too from, we paid this one huge influencer all this money to just talk about our one product, and they did it and nothing happened, right? So I think over time, through these types of conversations, people like yourself speaking out, but also their own personal experiences, I think it is gonna change. It's gonna have to, because at some point brands are gonna wise up and be like, we're not gonna give all this money to this influencer without doing our homework, without talking to them, without having that relationship and understanding from them how they've been able to convert people in the past. It's gonna have to change. I saw one of your videos. It was a recent one. It was like you did it was sponsored by Jimmy Choo, but I really enjoyed watching it because it was like you had all these different outfits and you still shared all like because I will look as a viewer, I will look and like, oh, is this video sponsored? Whenever I feel like, oh, is it sponsored? And I'll look and it says, and I'm like, okay. And then like, yeah, but it still feels like there's value to the video. Right? Like you showed all these different outfits, you showed how to wear it, and you also shared like the brands of everything that you were wearing, which I appreciated. I thought that was really interesting how you just, yes, it was sponsored by Jimmy Choo, but at the same, and then that I was like, oh, well, now I freaking want that person those boots, because every outfit she's wearing looks fabulous, but at the same time, it was like, there was definitely a lot of value to it, because I could still apply that to say another outfit of, black boots that I have or something. Like it didn't feel like it was, yes, it was sponsored, but it didn't feel like it was a commercial.
Exactly. And that is what I don't want my sponsorships to ever feel like. Even when it comes to campaign messaging now, I really do push back on that, because I'm not an infomercial, and my value and relationship with my audience doesn't come from that. It doesn't. I mean, there are people that are like specialists in skincare, and their audience will want to hear them reel off the molecular breakdown of the product, and that's fine, and that works, and that is the beauty of working with different influencers, and that's why you should look to diversify the type of influencers that you work with. But for me, I know how I like to watch sponsorships, and I always apply that in what I do. And I'll never forget, I watched a sponsored video once, and it was literally 15 minutes of this person working with McDonald's. And I was like, this is a like actual example of how I never want to do a sponsorship. And I now really do push back on things. And as much as when I speak to brands, they'll, like I said, they'll say, you're going to speak about other brands. And I'm like, yes. I will always hero the product that I'm working on, because A, I'm proud to be working on it, and B, I'm showing it because I love it. And so it's no problem for me to hero it. But at the end of the day, if I'm working with a fashion brand, again, I'm not going to be wearing a head to toe outfit like that. I mean, I think there's only one time that I've done that, and that was with Dior. And I think that if I could dress head to toe in Dior every day, I would.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
I think that that's the one time that I can get away with that.
Yeah.
And they didn't even give me the outfit. I was just loaning it. So, and I made that clear as well. But yeah, if I could, I totally would.
Yeah. Who wouldn't?
But in everyone's wardrobes, you know, especially in England at this time of year, everyone's looking for a good pair of black boots, and a good, you know, transitional handbag that they can wear throughout the season. And I thought, why not make a video and show how I bought I've worked with a brand and I've got 2 new pieces that sit in my video and in my wardrobe perfectly. So 2 pieces that have just changed up and I've worn them multiple ways. And if you're in the market for these items, then great. But it's never a hard sell. I'm never someone to turn around and be like, you have to buy this. You need this in your wardrobe. I'll never say that to my audience. And I hope I never feel in a position where I need to. But it's just if you're on the lookout for something and I happen to have found a good one or found something that you might not have heard of, then it's in my video and this is what I think of it. But it's never a hard sell.
And so, you know, kind of to wrap up this interview, which has been amazing. Thank you so much. One of the questions I want to ask is, because I have, you know, obviously the majority of the people that listen to this and watch this, if you're watching on YouTube, so definitely come hang out with us on YouTube and comment, you know, let us know what you're learning from Lydia. I mean, it's just so awesome. But, you know, most of the people that listen and watch are influencers. Somebody that look at you, they look up to you and you're like, I want to be like Lydia one day, you know. What do you suggest to them if they want to, you know, they want to be able to have that kind of audience that reacts so much to what they're saying, you know, like you said, like you pride yourself on having an audience that's very engaged, that's very much, you know, they're like your ride or dies. Like when you put up a video, it's your audience watching. And what do you recommend to people watching you saying, gosh, I want that one day. Like I want to be able to dictate to brands, this is what I want, because I have so much influence upon my audience. Like, what are the best pieces of advice you can give somebody?
Well, I think that it really is just focusing on quality over quantity. And for a long time, and I look at, especially in the UK, they put such an emphasis on huge, you know, 1 million+ channels. And there are some very, very influential and very, very credible, huge channels in the UK. And that I'm never disputing that at all. But it really is the quality of that audience that changes everything. And you can have 50,000 subscribers or followers, and if they listen and they engage and they trust you, like trust is the biggest thing. I always say that this industry is built off of trust and authenticity, and if you don't have that, you're not an influencer, you're not a credible creator. And so it's nice to hit milestones, it's nice to build a big audience, and there's a certain amount of, you know, when you say, oh, I've got this amount of followers, people are like, oh wow, that's so many. But actually that's just I think you said it earlier, which I thought was a great saying, the vanity number. When it's a big vanity, like that's just that's just what everyone sees. Yeah, exactly. But actually the quality and the engagement of them, and whether they're truly interested in what you do and they truly trust, that's where I would say the true power comes. And people might think that I'm mental even talking about this, because this is something that I've never particularly heard a lot of people speak about. But the beauty of this industry is that you and I could do the same thing online, but our audiences could be totally different. And that doesn't mean that either one of us is more influential. It's just you can hit 2 totally different audiences and still do the same thing. And that's why you'll see brands work with, a selection of creators that seem very similar, but actually hit totally different, demographics or countries or regions or whatever. And so it always just comes down to who your audience are. Yeah. Get my words out.
Yeah.
And how many. And I think that if you're authentic and you're honest and you really hero that, then the followers will come, because at the end of the day, we can only handle watching people that we don't trust for so long. And if you're sat there and you're watching someone's content and you're like, I don't believe a word that you're saying, I'm going to go and find someone that I do. And I'm like that as well, because I always think of myself as a consumer as well, because I watch so many amazing girls on the internet and engage so much with their content. And I buy products off of the back of my favorite YouTubers or creators' recommendations. And I know what it's like when you feel like you haven't really got a value. So yeah, it's mainly about understanding that it's not what it used to be seen as, that number. It's now that trust.
Yeah, it's all about that. It's all about that trust. How do you balance like serving your audience, really serving them, giving them that content, like coming up with ideas and all that stuff, with the brands, making sure that at the end of the day, you do also want to make sure that they're happy as well. Like, how do you balance that? And do you have a certain number of, say, okay, I'll only do this many number of sponsored videos a month, or did you not look at it? How do you balance that whole thing?
Do you know what? I don't necessarily look at how many. I just look at how they fit, and the sort of, what's the word, like I'm just never going to take a sponsorship that I don't want to take. And if I happen to have 3 in a row, sometimes that will happen. I mean, I'm especially feeling that at the moment because I took a bit of time off when my cat went missing. And and so there was there's still a huge knock-on effect where things backed up. And luckily, I don't make sponsored content something that's like taboo on my channel. Like I talk about it. I'm really frank. And when I disclose my sponsorships, it's usually, if I remember, verbally, on screen and in the description box as well, because it's not something that I'm shying away from and I'm trying to hide. So I think that pretty much my audience have got used to it, and I don't see huge drop off of subscribers when I put up a video. And I think that I found a really good balance with how I do that, because it's like I said, I don't do a 15-minute talk about one product. I do a 30 to sometimes 50-minute video.
Crazy.
And a part of that will feature the sponsorship, but then it sits in with my life. And I'll wake up in the morning and I'll do my makeup, and I'll be using a particular product, and then I go on and the world of Lydia unfolds on the internet, and whatever happens, and then that goes into my video. And that for me has been the most authentic way to work on things, and for it to not feel like my channel is just sponsorship after sponsorship, because it's always authentic. And it's how I choose to sort of do things, and it's how I would want to watch it if I was a consumer. And it's the most enjoyable way when I watch other creators. I'm like, they put a little integration there, great.
Yeah.
But I think that works really well. It works really well.
Have you ever gotten any pushback ever from, have you gotten pushback for your sponsored content from your audience?
Well, do you know what? In the beginning, you get comments when you first, move into that sort of area where you're able to do sponsorships. And then you realize that, because my sponsorships are so authentic. Like when I work on the By Terry CC serum, and I still get comments, oh, this is just sponsored. You're like, okay, I've used this product for 5 years.
Yeah.
I use it more times in fact, I feel bad when I say I'm using the By Terry CC serum, because I use it so much.
Yeah.
That is the most authentic partnership. If someone is still going to be annoyed by that, there's always going to be someone who's annoyed or doesn't understand it. But as long as I'm able to be to stand by what I'm working on, and the majority, because, you know, if you get 10 comments that people are like, oh, this is just sponsored, or I'm really bored of your sponsored content, you have to kind of filter that out. As much as we like to focus on the negative things generally, you have to filter that out, and also understand that, you know, I did everything I could and utilized everything I know to ensure that I'm doing right by them. And I can't do more, but I actually really enjoy doing sponsored content. For me, it's challenging, and it means I get to be creative and try new things in terms of my content. And even like the Jimmy Choo video that you said you watched, like that was a new type of video that I hadn't really done, where I take 2 items and I style them multiple ways. I mean, people have been doing that for a long time, but I haven't done that on my channel. And that was me trying something different in terms of fashion. And I really, really liked it. And
I did too. I really enjoyed that video.
But yeah, so it's there, you're always going to get those people that just don't get it, and they can't, you know, they may have missed a video where you organically featured that product, and from you organically featuring that product, the brand could have seen and been like, oh my God, we didn't know you loved that. We'd love to work with you on that product. And from there, you get the partnership. And for me, that's a great way for a partnership to come about, but people might not see that. And so you can't expect your audience to watch every aspect of what you're putting out. And just, I think if you know when you've been backed into a corner with a collaboration or a product or anything, and you know, because we're all honest people, like, you know when it doesn't sit right with you. And I can't say that there hasn't been times when I've been like, oh, that didn't go how I wanted it to go. I learned from it, and that's why I'm now difficult, because I don't ever.
Okay, we're back. So we had a little bit of a glitch. Apparently Lydia ran out of internet.
Yeah, I live in the middle of nowhere. If any of like my subscribers are watching, they'll know my struggles with the internet. But I ran out of internet, and then it wouldn't work on my phone, so I had to get it. I had to be on the phone to like EE and get it all working again. But it's fine. We're back.
Good.
But I'm so annoyed because I felt like I was coming to like a really good point, and now I can't remember what I was saying.
No, I can't. You were talking about. I can't even remember it either. Oh my gosh. I don't know. It was like 15, 20 minutes ago. But I know we were just wrapping up with like you kind of just, you were sharing your advice to influencers. You were talking about like if you got any pushback about, you know. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. But it was all really good. I just thank you so much for just sharing so much about just, you know, kind of like, I don't want to say exposing, but just really revealing and pulling back the curtains of what goes on behind the scenes of someone like you who is so influential in this space and, you know, who has seen success.
Well, I think that like, this is the thing. I think we've all been so worried to talk about this kind of stuff that it's almost made, like, I know that there are a lot of people that think that this industry is quite sinister because of what they know from previous like media and marketing, that they think that all of this like horrible stuff goes on behind the scenes, but actually it's really quite a lot of us are really take it really seriously, and we're really like overprotective. But I know that I have felt really worried to talk about this stuff, and I think that actually just being honest and saying what it's actually like working with brands and how seriously we actually do take it. Hopefully that just shows the realities are not the same as what old media used to be and how things used to be. And, you know, they have their place, and I don't want everyone to seem like I'm talking badly of them, but I have wanted to do a podcast like this and talk about this stuff for so long. So I'm so grateful for you giving me this platform to talk about it, because like I said, I've done podcasts in the past and I love them, but I think I was probably too scared to move into this and talk about this stuff. But I think this is only going to be a good thing. So hopefully other people talk about it now.
Yes. I mean, is there anything that left that you want to say about this topic? Anything that maybe we didn't touch on that you feel needs to be said?
I don't think so. I think that like I want to make it clear, because I'm the biggest worrier in the world, but I'm never like bad mouthing any brands and saying that brands don't know what they're doing. I just think that a lot of people like myself, we're all working in an industry that is so new, and the only way we're going to learn and really fine tune this so that it has a lot more longevity is by talking about these things and having conversations. And I think that that's just the best thing. So I just want to make it clear that like the brands that I work with are lovely, and I have such great relationships where I can talk to them. But it doesn't mean that there isn't that still going on, and there are still brands that maybe don't know so much and could know more. And I hope that maybe I've just shone a light on that so that everyone can do better, and everyone can smash the back doors off this industry and make it really, really like something amazing that it's already becoming. So yeah, I just want to make that clear, because I don't want it to seem like I'm being horrible about anyone.
No, and I just want to thank you, because it is awesome having somebody like you who is so, I would say, influential, in this space, who's been on it for so long, that you are talking about some of these things. And it's all like coming from a place that I see is from a place of just making the whole industry better. Because if people like you, people that are already experiencing this success and already working with brands, don't pull back the curtain, don't talk about these things, and it's like you're blazing the trail for everybody behind you, people like yourself, and it is important, because if these conversations don't happen, brands are going to get burnt out, creators are going to burnt out, and like these things have to happen. And so thank you for sharing it. Thank you for coming on. And it's just been such a pleasure having you here on the podcast. So for anybody that maybe doesn't know who you are, where can people find you?
Okay, so you can find me. I'm Lydia Elise Millen on YouTube, and then my blog is also Lydia Elise Millen, and my Instagram and my Twitter is both at Lydia E Millen. I really wish that I didn't have the E in the middle, but no one will give me it without the E, so it's Lydia E Millen on there. But those are all the places that you can find me.
Great. And then I will have all the links in the show notes. I will, if you're here on YouTube, all the links will be here in the description. And also, if you're listening on the podcast, come on to YouTube. I want to hear from you guys. Like, what did you think about this conversation that Lydia and I had about working with brands? Leave your comments below, and let's start a discussion about this. Well, thank you so much, Lydia, for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. This has just been brilliant. And I'm sorry about the technical issues.
Oh, no worries. No worries. All right. Bye.